Okay, so I think we can start, so please calm down. So today this is a kind of special seminar because we have a guest lecture and we have a public lecture from the candidate who wants to become a professor. And this is Petr Bogusch from the university in Hradec Králové. And the procedure to become a professor is quite a long journey because first he starts with we started as a committee, which I would like to introduce now. I will start with the members which are here. So this is Professor Oldřich Nedvěd from České Budějovice, from the Entomological Institute of the Academy of Science. And then beside me, we have three other members which are connected online. So I hope that all you can hear me. So I will start with the Professor Lars Čitka from the University of London. Thank you. Then the other member is Jakub Prokop from the Charles University. Can you hear us, Jakub? Okay, perfect.
Switch on.
Good. And finally, the last member is the Associate Professor Milan Veselý from the Palacký University in Olomouc. Okay, you are muted. Anyway, but good. Okay, so let me now introduce the candidate. So Petr has received his PhD a long time ago, of course, since he wants to become a professor. So this was in 2006, and I think I was a reviewer of the thesis, right? I forgot about it. But
it was the first time we met.
Yeah. And then he continued to become to habilitate himself to become an associate professor, which happened in 2015, and he did it here at our Masaryk University. And since then or actually it was from 2006, he became an assistant professor at the Department of Biology at the University of Hradec Králové, and he continued in this until 2015 when he became official associate professor. And then between 2012 and 17 he was the head of the Division of Zoology at the Department of Biology in Olomouc, and finally between 2017 and 24, that means until last year, he was the head of the Department of Biology at the Faculty of Science in the University of Hradec Králové. To introduce his output or his research interest, so his major research is actually taxonomy, phylogeny, ecology of wild bees, and that's what you will be hearing today about, and in particular the cuckoo bees. These are very interesting, rather small creatures, and I hope that you will like them as well. So he has been studying this topic since his university studies, basically from his PhD, and over these 20 years he has become an internationally esteemed expert. His publication record is quite large. It includes almost 100 papers which are indexed in the Web of Science, and his age or what's the name? Age index is Hirsch index is 21, and he's among the most valued publications is the Atlas of Bees and Wasps of Czech Republic, which some of you may know, or may even heard about it. During this period he has obtained several grants, not only Czech ones, but also he was included in the collaboration with foreign institutes, and he received 5 grants from the European agencies where he acted as a collaborator. Most of these grants were actually focused on the bees. Right? So now his pedagogical experience. So all his teaching is done at the university in Hradec Králové. So you may imagine that there is a lot of students and there are not so many teachers, and Petr is really busy with the teaching. So he really has an extensive pedagogical experience, and he started his teaching from 2006 and basically it goes on until now. What he's teaching? Well, he's pioneering the lecturing of evolutionary biology at this university, and he also has courses on the phylogeny of invertebrates, and he recently introduced a new course on the entomology. Besides these main subjects, he's also teaching several specialized seminaries which are focused on molecular zoology or principles of biological terminology and environmental zoology, or preparing publications and environmental zoology. He's also very active in supervising students. The record is really high. So far he has supervised 40 bachelor students, more than 30 master students, and 2 PhD students. Since 2017 he has served as a grantor of the major study program, which is at the University in Hradec Králové, which is called Biology and Ecology. And of course he is also involved in popularization of his science. So he is an author of several popular articles published in local Czech journals like Živa, for example, and he also prepared several textbooks on bees and other hymenopterans. Right, so he has also a very intensive international collaboration. Since he is mainly dealing with taxonomy, so he often collaborates with foreign museums like natural history museums in Southern Europe, for example, the University of Almeria in Spain, etc., etc. He also acts as editor in several journals, specifically in Journal of Insect Conservation, Journal of Entomology, and then Ecological Engineering. And back in 2005 and 2019, he has organized Czech and Slovak conferences focused on hymenopterans. So, the last sentence that I want to say is that he has built already a team of researchers at his home university, and the team, and he was repeatedly, specifically in 2010, 12 and 13, awarded as the best scientist at the University of Hradec Králové. So now I would like to invite him to hear his talk. He's coming. And before he starts, I want to send around these 2 pages that you should sign. Let me switch to the presentation. Struggling with it. Okay, here we are. Okay. I just want to ask the other members, can you see the presentation? Yes, perfect, thank you. Here you go.
I try it.
One last click. And it should work now. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the bees, but we will not talk about the honeybees, and we will not talk about the bees of steppe or xerothermic habitats, but we will talk about bees of wetlands. The reason is because it is one of the main topics of research we did with my research team. And before we studied this topic, there was nearly nothing known about this topic. I will start with a short introduction about the bees and wasps, which are also important. So these insects are classified into the order Hymenoptera, and they form a monophyletic clade, which is called Aculeata, because they have the ovipositor changed into the sting. And there are 3 superfamilies, Chrysidoidea, Vespoidea, and Apoidea. And the position of the families in these 3 superfamilies are very different and disputable, because currently there are many research teams working on the phylogeny based on different genes, and each cladogram is different. So this is the most respected phylogenetic tree currently from Brado's publication from 2019. And in these families or in these groups, in Chrysidoidea, we have a well-known family, Chrysididae, in English called cuckoo wasps or golden wasps. They are metallic, beautiful, but they are parasitic. And the members of other families, which are classified into this superfamily, are also parasitic, but they are usually very small, tiny, black, nearly invisible if you don't have the microscope. So Chrysidids are the most beautiful. Vespoidea, everyone knows, wasps, paper wasps, hornets. So these are the social members of the family Vespidae, but there are much more solitary members of this family. They are nesting predators. They hunt usually for larvae or adults of different insects. And in the superfamily Vespoidea, we have another families of nesting predators like Pompilidae, which hunt spiders, and also Formicidae, the ants, are classified into this group. and the other groups are usually parasitic. They are Mutilidae, Typhidae, Scolidae. All members have larvae as parasitoids on different groups of insects. Now we are coming to the bees. The superfamily Apoidea is divided into two groups. The first one is paraphyletic. It is called Sphexiformes, and most of the members are nesting predators. And the second, it is monophyletic, and it is called Anthophila or Apiformes, and these are the true bees, which are vegetarians. They collect nectar, pollen, some floral oils or other things from plants, and most of them make their own nests, and they have specific body hairs, specific biology, and they are divided into 7 families, and members of 6 of them occur also in the Czech Republic. Only Stenotiridae don't occur here, and the number of bees in our country is approximately 600 species. In Europe, it is, according to the last checklist, which is now ready to publish, 2,138 species, but there are still new species being described. So there are many nesting and life strategies in this group, and this group is starting in last 10 or 15 years to be quite important group in nature conservation, and many people just now know about the pollinators and about the pollination decline, and bees are supposed to be one of the most important pollinators. The wasps are a little bit behind because there are not so many specialists on this group, but in my opinion they are also very important pollinators, because in summer if you visit a flowering meadow, you find about the same amount of bees and wasps on the flowers. So I am currently in several European projects on pollinators. I am trying to put the wasps there too into the projects, but it is very difficult. Currently I thought that there are some projects about pollinators. So the first one was the creation of European Red List of bees, which was published in 2014. I was one of the authors, but the Red List had one problem, that most of the species were evaluated as data deficient, because we knew nearly nothing about them. So after several years, the group of authors became much more numerous, and the people were collecting the faunistic data and ecological data and other data of all bee species, and new Red List will be published in October, so it can be today, it can be in 2 weeks, and the new Red List is much better because the creation of the Red List is based on much more comprehensive data. Other projects. This one is very important, EPIC. Everyone knows that from the year 2027, each country of EU 27 must do a research on pollinators. And this research will result into some conservation measures which will be applied for pollinators in all countries in EU 27. But the main problem is that there are not many people who are able to study pollinators in field and to identify pollinators. So this project, EPIC, has the main aim to enlarge the number of the people who are able to monitor and identify pollinators. So the main work on the project are trainings. Trainings on 3 levels, basic, intermediate and advanced, and the people who pass these trainings should be then able to study and identify pollinators. It is done in 3 groups: bees, hoverflies and butterflies. And I am the teacher of the trainings in all 3 levels. Another project, this orbit, it should be finished, but there are some problems, not with the bee specialists, but with IT specialists. The platform still doesn't work. Was to create a platform on the internet with all species of bees occurring in Europe and all information available on the bees, all information about the morphology, ecology, distribution, conservation, identification keys, and everything like this. All the resources are finished, but the platform doesn't work. So hopefully the platform will work soon, and I was one of the main people in the project and the author of fact sheets of the pages of about 140 species of bees. Last project, PolHub, it is very interesting and it should be connected with the research on pollinators. It is something like conservation of habitats which are important for pollinators and to prepare some target species of pollinators of each habitat. The project now started and it is on the start point a little bit. And Pollinator Academy, it is not a project, but it is a platform with many important resources on pollinators. So if you are interested, for example, in identification of bees, you can check Pollinator Academy, where are identification keys, local and European checklists, red lists, and all these comprehensive publications. So, bees are beautiful. This is one of the reasons why I study them, and they are very diverse. Every bee looks differently. Everyone knows Xylocopa, which are spreading. Formerly they occurred only here in the south of Moravia. Now you can see them in the north. They are spreading probably due to the climate change, but maybe many other factors. This one is not spreading here. This is Xylocopa pubescens from Africa, but it is spreading in South Europe. And 3 weeks ago, I got a record from Hungary, from north of Hungary, which is very north of the records from Greece, Italy, Bulgaria, and so on. Second one, my favorite bee species, Epeloides cercutiens, it is a cuckoo bee. This one doesn't make nests, but lays eggs into nests of other bees. So it is not the good guy, but the bad guy. And usually in the movies or in books, the bad guys are the prettiest. And you can see that this one is very beautiful. The most numerous genus in our country is Andrena. There are about 150 species. And this one is Andrena vaga, a species which is specialized on sandy habitats, collects pollen only on willows, and it is quite endangered, and it makes very big nest aggregations on the area like this classroom, and it is one of the most studied bees in Europe. This one collects pollen on hind legs, but members of the family Megachilidae collect pollen on the bottom of the metasoma. We don't say abdomen because the first abdominal segment partly forms the thorax here. So we don't say thorax and abdomen, but we say mesosoma and metasoma because these are different terms. So this is Megachile, and it collects pollen here on the bottom of the metasoma. Ceratina, like some other bees, are metallic, very beautiful, and they have parental care of the offspring. The females are cleaning the nests, and males, not like in other bees, males don't do anything. They only mate with the females. Here the males are patrolling the nests against the parasites, and it is a very big exception in all bee genera and groups. And the bumblebee, everyone knows the bumblebee, so this is Bombus terrestris, the commonest bumblebee in our country. So, if you want to study bees, you usually study them in xerothermic and open habitats. Also in the world, the highest diversity of bees is not in tropical forests, but the highest diversity of bees is in open and warm habitats in tropical and subtropical regions. In our country, steppe habitats, sandy habitats, and all xerothermic habitats. But we also have bees which are specialized on forests, but they don't live inside the forest, but they are more ecotonal. They occur in forest margins, along the paths in forests, and so on. We have specific bees of alpine meadows, and we have bees of wetlands. The number of bees occurring in wetlands is not very high, and even the number of wetland specialists. But they are usually quite, they have very interesting ecology, and some of these bees can be important in nature conservation of wetlands. I will talk about it very soon. Bees are specialized on two things. If you are a bee, you need to live somewhere, to make a nest somewhere, and to eat something, or to find food for your children, for the larvae. So these are the main resources, and some bees are specialized on habitat, and some are specialized on pollen resources. We classify the bees to monolactic, oligolactic, and polylactic. Monolactic are most specialized, polylactic are generalists. But these are not free boxes. It is like a continuum which is very changing and very difficult to understand, because the bees, better than to die, can switch to another plant if the main host plant doesn't flower. So it is very difficult to discuss. And cuckoo bees, like this Apelloides, they are specialized on the host mainly, but several cuckoo bees also have some habitat specialization, and this is the reason why cuckoo bees are usually very rare. So when you go to the museum and you see collection of bees, you find many specimens of bees which are nesting, but only several individuals of cuckoo bees, because it is very difficult to study them, but they are beautiful, so this is my favorite group. So, what about the bees in wetlands? It was an accident why we started to study them. And it was a very beautiful story. This man, Bohuslav Mocek, my friend, he, however, passed away 2 years ago. He was specialist in Phoridae, Diptera, and he worked in a museum in Hradec Králové, and he was very good in trapping insects. When he put somewhere a trap, it was full of insects, especially malajs trap. And once he placed the malajs trap near this pond, Kopičácký pond in Žehuňská Obora, and the trap was full of insects, and I identified the bees and wasps, and I found there many species which I have never seen before. So I went to National Museum to confirm my identifications, and they didn't have the species in their collection. So I started to search about some information about ecology of these species, and I found that these species were collected in reed beds or in wetlands, and some of them are associated with gulls of Lipara. So what are gulls of Lipara? I have never heard about it before. Lipara are flies of the family Chloropidae. They look like this. They are very funny in appearance. And there are 4 species occurring in Central Europe. In Europe, I think there are 9 of them. And all are forming galls on stems of Phragmites. The galls are not round like oak galls, but they are elongated. And when the gall is old, and Lipara emerges from the gall, then the gall can serve as a perfect cavity for nesting. And some of the bees and wasps, which are so rare and they don't have them in museum collections, are associated with these galls, and some of them are common. But nobody in past studied bees and wasps in wetlands. So we started with it. First, I checked the literature and I found nearly nothing. First publication is from Heinrich Wolf, a former specialist of bees and wasps from Germany, who collected several galls and then let hatch the bees and wasps from the galls and identified some of them to genera or species level. Then Paul Westrich, a German guru who published probably the best books about the bees which were ever published in Europe about bee taxonomy and ecology, did an experiment in wetland near his hometown. He collected in flooded areas the galls which were above the water level and under the water level, and studied if the brood of bees and wasps can survive the flooding. And the study is quite long, and it comprises some information about the nesting ecology, biology of the species nesting in gulls, and about Lipara too. So this was probably the first good study, and then this book was published by Emilia Petrovna Narcuk. This book is about Lipara and other members of Chloropidae, and there is a short part about the secondary inhabitants of gulls, but they are mostly wrongly identified, and this part is not very useful. So we started to test the methodology because it is not simple. There are many species of viruses, insects, acarids, and some other biota making gulls on Phragmites. So first you must find which gull is the the best, and then we found that only gulls of Lipara lucens and Pulitarsis have cavity inside. So only gulls of these two species can be useful as nesting cavities for bees and wasps. We collected the gulls in winter. We started usually after the new year. And this was a good choice because the overwintering insect brood is in prepupal stage. So when we put the gulls to room temperature, the insects start to pupate and then to hatch. And certainly it is important not to collect new gulls from last year, but the older ones. You can distinguish them quite well, because if you collect new gulls, you have many Lipara and their parasitoids, but if you are interested in secondary inhabitants of empty gulls, you must study older gulls than 1 year old. When we collected hundreds of gulls, we needed some methodology to get the insects from them. It was quite difficult, and because I am not only the biologist, but I am a little bit an inventor, like Jara Zimmerman or something like this, I invented this tool, and the invention was that at 3 a.m. I woke up and I had the idea, and I drew it on the paper, then I slept till the morning, and in the morning I went to my student, Martina Komínova, who created this tool, and it worked. It worked very well. The principle is something like a Malay strap. It is a sack we put the gulls into, and here is a bottle with ethyl alcohol. You put the sack on the line towards the window, and the insects are hatching, crawling here, here, and falling here. So this is good, and we have, I think, 30 these tools in our use, and it is not good if you want to know something about the biology of the insects nesting in the gulls. So then we started to use another tool, clippers, and we extracted the gulls, and we extracted the nests from them, and we studied the nests. The first publication on this topic was the overview about the nesting communities of bees and wasps, and because that time it was published in 2014, there was very modern to study insects in post-industrial or anthropogenic habitats. Now, I don't know what is modern, maybe climate change, it is still modern, but then that time it was very modern. So we studied reed beds in near natural habitats like the pond reservations like Břehyňský, Novozámecký, Žehuňský pond, Nesit in south of Moravia, ponds in Třeboňsko, protected landscape area, and so on. And we compared them with post-industrial habitats like reed bed in former sand pit, reed bed in ash sedimentary basin, reed bed on spoil heap in Mostecko region, and so on. And we collected 500 at least of gulls, if it was possible, and let all the insects hatch from them. And then we trapped in summer at the same habitats the flying insects in June or July. It was in the time when all the species nesting in gulls occur usually in the same time, in June, from June to August. So this was the best time to capture the species nesting in galls. The high diversity of trapped insects was in post-industrial wetlands because there was bare soil for nesting, but rare specialized species of conservation interest occurred mainly in wetlands near the ponds, in reservations, so in near natural wetlands. We also described the proportions of nesting species in galls, and we found that this crabronid wasp, Pempheron fabrici, was the most numerous, and I can say it was dominant because it always comprised more than 90 or 95% of everything, of all bees and wasps we got from the galls. Because not only bees and wasps were hatching from the galls, but many other insects and invertebrates were coming out from the galls, we published another paper with a number of specialists. Yeah, I see that the fonts had some problems, I'm sorry for that. And there were some faunistically interesting records, like new records for the Czech Republic, new records for Europe, and many species of many groups of insects and also spiders. And then we knew something about the community of insects and invertebrates inhabiting old galls. Many of them are nesting there, spiders are making webs there, other insects are probably pupating there, that larva of some Tenthredinidae species gets into the gall and then it pupates inside. Ants do their colonies inside the galls and so on. So we studied something about the continuity of the habitat because we started to focus to the conservation biology a little bit, and it is something like a cycle. When the habitat is new, then the species are they are coming new and new and new species, but after some time it starts to be stabilized and there are some changes which are not very large. Sometimes we have crazy idea about our research, and the craziest idea is usually then investigated. And once we were sitting with my colleague Petr Henneberg in a pub drinking beer, and he said, the experiment with flooding was interesting. I would like to see if they also tolerate salinity. And I said, okay, so we can go to the Baltic Sea, and then to the Adriatic Sea, and then maybe some inland salinas in Hungary. And we were laughing that it is a very crazy idea. After several days, I prepared the timetable, Petr found the money, I took the car, and we went to these regions. I had some contacts in Poland and in Hungary, so it was not difficult, and we collected thousands of galls and measured some salinity and some other characters of the water in the habitats. And then we spent days and nights in the lab extracting the galls, and the results were nothing. No interesting results from that. But we knew much about nest structure because we studied gull inhabitants also in the south, in Hungary, Italy, Slovenia. We found species which don't occur in the Czech Republic. So we published these two papers in PLOS I, which were focused on the nest structure, but not only on the nest structure, but also on host-parasite associations and about the choosing of the gulls. We found that different species choose different types of gulls for their nesting. And finally, the nesting species, they don't have them, the adults, in museum collections, so they certainly don't have known larvae and their morphology. So we described the larval morphology. We'll still have some species with undescribed larval morphology. Maybe we return to it sometimes. Because we focused to the conservation biology, When someone asks me what is my scope of research, I usually say that conservation biology of bees and wasps, or pollinators now, because it sounds better. So we did this experiment. The main management of terrestrial reed beds, which are usually full of gulls and full of gull inhabitants, is moving. But when you do this management, you cut the edges of the reed bed, and the edges are full of gulls, because the gulls are usually on the margin, not inside. So we put trap nests and color pen traps at the margin of moved and unmoved reed beds, and we studied the contents of the traps. And we found, which was not surprising, that species which nest mainly in reed stalks, cut reed stalks, like moving. Species which nest in reed galls, they don't like moving. So this was the main result. Interesting was this very tiny crabronid wasp, Passaloecus clipearis, also wetland specialist, which nests in galls, but positively reflected the moving. But we didn't have quite big sample of this species, and maybe it was the data was not very good. So I am very careful about this statement. Regarding the conservation, I usually like the species conservation which is connected with habitat conservation. And during our research, all the time, I try to find some of the species nesting in galls which could be a good, probably umbrella species for conservation of wetlands. And this one is the best candidate. It is a tiny bee called Hyleus pectoralis. And we tested some of the preferences of this species, and the results are clear that it prefers well-preserved, long-lasting reed beds in near-natural habitats. It usually isn't very numerous in post-industrials, and it needs something like a combination of terrestrial reed bed and wet meadow full of flowers. So very beautiful wetland habitat, which is certainly very good for amphibians, birds, and other insects, spiders, protected plants, and so on. This species is quite simple to identify under the microscope. And it is very simple to study. You collect some number of the galls, let the insects hatch from them, and if Hyleus is there, then you can think about the habitat. It is good for conservation measures. So this is our umbrella species, and it is interesting that this species is a strict specialist to nesting in reed galls. It doesn't nest in any other cavities. And there are, I think, 5 other species of this genus specialized on wetlands, but the other species avoid the galls or nest in them only sporadically. Second good species, but not for the Czech Republic. If I had this lecture in Hungary, the Hungarians were happy because this species is called Pseudoanthidum tenellum, a very rare species with a large distribution area in nearly whole of the Palearctic, and it occurs in well-preserved wetlands. The ecology is similar to Hyleus pectoralis, and we were lucky that we collected many nests and found associations with parasites. We found the pollen, we studied the pollen diet of Pseudoanthidum, and we published this paper not only about this one, but about 2 species nesting in Central Europe. So this can be another good species for conservation measures, but not here. It still doesn't occur in the Czech Republic. In Slovakia they have it, only in the south, in Podunajská lowland, near Štúrovo, Komárno, it occurs there. Some other studies were not connected with reed galls because maybe someone of you had a question in the head. Do all species of wetlands nest in reed galls? No. There are many species which don't use reed galls for their nesting, but they also specialized on wetlands. And the best knowledge about them we got from this study. We studied field wetlands. Field wetlands are small places which are somewhere on arable land, but they are not arable, so the people from agriculture leave them not with some planting. And these places, we trapped these places, we put carp and traps there, and we were very surprised by the diversity of species. I think there are more than 350 species, which is much more than, for example, in the best stepping habitats around. If you see the number of species of bees and wasps found in Pálava and Pouzdřany together, it is much lower than the number found in field wetlands. And we were asking why, because except many wetland species, there were nearly all. We found there species specialized on sandy habitats, on stepping habitats, species of open xerothermic habitats, and from each ecological group, maybe some species. And probably the field wetlands, if you see the landscape, can be the last islands of biodiversity in the landscape, because around them there are only fields, forests, which are not forests like ecosystems, but there are plantations for trees of one species and settlements. Currently, bees and wasps and other insects are moving into the settlements because you can find in gardens and parks something which is a little bit like nature, and it is much better than the vicinity of the settlements. And here the field wetlands can be very good for the species because there are some flowering plants. There is a lot of insects and invertebrates as a prey for them. There are some margins here which can be used for ground nesting bees. And there are quite many small field wetlands which are not far from each other. So the bees and wasps can move from one to another, and their population can have something like a meta-population structure. So this is maybe the reason why these field wetlands were so full of insects. The diversity was very high there. And currently this year I saw something similar. We studied pollinators of crops on fields, but of crops which are attractive for pollinators. And the leader of the project, my PhD student, was very sad from the project because she lives a few kilometers north of Prague. And she was going by car in the whole region, and there were fields only with oilseed rape, wheat and corn, nothing else. And when she came to Hradec Králové, she was very surprised because when she went 30 kilometers by car, she found more than 10 different crops which were attractive for pollinators. We found some interesting host associations. These tiny wasps don't belong to the Aculeata group. It is family Gasteruptionidae. They are not ichneumonids, they are not related to ichneumonids, but they are parasitoids. And the hosts are bees, wasps not very much. And we found some of them in the galls. It is very interesting that the larva is very robust, large, and then this very tiny, long adult emerges from the larva. And we studied the biology because 3 species which we collected from the galls, 2 of them are very rare in the whole Europe. And one of them is Gasteruption fragmiticola. This is its larva. And the host of Gasteruption fragmiticola, the only documented host, is Hyleus pectoralis, the umbrella species of bee nesting only in galls. I have more than 1,000 specimens in my collection of Gasteruption fragmiticola, but all of them were rare from the gulls. I have never collected it on flowers in the nature or something like that. And the second one is Gasteroptyl nigrescens, and it is following maybe the spreading of its new host, a tiny bee, Heriades rubicola. So we studied this topic. We also described the larvae and the morphology and nest structures and so on. And another interesting study was about how do the inner contents of gulls look like in summer. It was one of my questions. So 1 year in summer we started to study the inner contents of the nests, and the dominant species Pempherodon fabricii, we studied how the nests look like, and we found that it nests completely differently from its relative species. Every Pempherodon or every crabronid wasp usually makes a broad chamber, brings prey there, and lays one egg, then closes the chamber and makes another chamber, and the same and the same. Female of Pempherodon fills the whole inner contents of the gull with aphids, which are the prey for larvae. We counted them, and there can be more than 600 of aphids in one gull, and some of the aphids have egg of Pempherodon on their surface. Then the larva eats the aphid, and at the end of the metamorphosis, of the larval cycle, it lasts usually 2 or 3 weeks. The larvae sort from the largest to the smallest, from the basis to the apex of the gull, like in grammar school in physical education, when we had to sort. And the smallest larvae are at the top of the gull. And sometimes they are very small. Their size is about 1/3 of the size of the largest larva. And we were finding new, fresh aphids in the apex of the gull. And then we observed the females, that the females at the end of the larval development fed the smallest larvae with aphids to help them to finalize their metamorphosis. It is a unique example of progressive provisioning, and we called it late progressive provisioning, like that the female feeds the larvae at the end of their metamorphosis. So it was something like an idea to look into the gulls in summer, and one of the best and more important results emerged from this idea. Second parasite, which is very common inside the gulls, is Pteridanthrux fenestratus. It is a dipteran species of the family Bombylidae. It is very interesting because usually in warm regions it is very common in reed gulls, and it can switch the strategies from koinobiont to adenobiont. It is very plastic in its behavior, but the main goal was, when we published this paper, Jeremy Field from Britain emailed me that he is interested in material of Pteridanthrux from the gulls. I sent him some specimens, and he replied that it is definitely not Pteridanthrux fenestratus, although it was identified by a Czech specialist as this species. It is something new, maybe a new species for the science, because Jeremy hasn't ever seen this species. And now the specimens are under morphological and molecular studies. So maybe we discovered a new species for science inside reed gulls. Many species of wetland bees and wasps, like cut reed, they nest inside reed stalks, and sometimes they prefer them. So we played with these trap nests, which were made of reed stalks and goldenrod stems, and we placed these nests to wetlands, which were very near to some stepping habitat, like a xerothermic slope above the wetland. And we studied if the species of wetlands occur and settle the nests in stepping habitats and otherwise. The results, here is the heat map. Here it is wetland and steppe, and these 4 columns are the trap nests, and this is occurrence in carapan traps. And you can usually see that there are very big differences between wetland and steppe habitats. So the species are not much shared, or if they are shared, the species probably was very rare in 3 nests in steppe habitat, but in 300 nests in reedbed and otherwise. Second interesting research was this one. This was the only paper I have ever published, and I think I have 101 papers now, where I sent it to the journal and they answered me, okay, the paper is perfect, we accept it, without any revisions required. Maybe it was the last time when it happened. And it was a strange idea when my colleague asked me, and do you think that species of steppe habitats can nest in the reed gulls when they never have seen them before? So we tried it. We created trap nests of reed gulls and put them on steppe habitats which were at least 2 kilometers far from the nearest wetland with Phragmites. And there are quite many species occurring in steppe habitats which nest in such cavities. But the only species which was nesting frequently in these trap nests was Petr Bogusch, the wetland specialist. It was even collected in steppe habitats. Maybe we overlooked some very small reed bed, or the species can spread to large distances, we don't know. But the species of steppe habitats, although we trapped many of them into the traps and using transects, they completely ignored the gull nests. And one of the last things before the conclusive studies, we were finding these examples of larvae which were affected by some fungus or viruses, bacteria, and my colleague Mirek Kolařík, maybe you know him as the author about the book about the bark beetles. He cultivated the species of fungi, and we describe some new species for science and new association of species with insects, that the new entomopathogenity of several species. Especially this one, I am trying to find the name, but maybe in half an hour. This one is very dangerous because it is very invasive, and when you find it in a collection of nests with larvae, it can affect the whole breeding of larvae in a very short time. And second was a study about the heavy metals, because there are many species of very endangered and very rare bees and wasps and other insects and invertebrates and also vertebrates which occur in sedimentary basins, spoil heaps, or habitats which are polluted, which are full of heavy metals. And yes, it is good that these species survived somewhere, but are these habitats good for them? So we studied how larvae of Petr Bogusch can work with heavy metals, if they accumulate them, if there are some problems that they are dying or not finishing their metamorphosis. And we found that many of studied heavy metals, we studied I think 8 of them, they had some effect on the larvae. So the polluted areas cannot be thought as a survive for rare and endangered species of plants and animals and insects and invertebrates. We must take care on areas which are not polluted. When we had very comprehensive data about wetland bees and wasps, we did this study because we found that there are differences among the microhabitats of wetlands. that different species usually prefer different microhabitats, and from our data, which were very huge, it was more than 150 data sets from reed gulls and similar number of data sets from pen traps. We evaluated which species are specialized for different microhabitats. This is my author drawing, and you can see specific types of wetlands. Wetland reedbed with some phragmites, terrestrial reedbed, reed margin of a pond, reed margin of a floating water, moved reedbed. Here is some not toxic post-industrial reedbed in sandpit. Here is reedbed on toxic substrate. This one is field wetland, and this one is reedbed on stepping habitat. And there are usually very different species in different microhabitats like this. And the last study we did on reedbeds on reed gulls was this one. 2 years ago we had the anniversary, 10 years from our first study of reed gulls. So we decided to repeat it because we studied the inhabitants of reed gulls in anthropogenic post-industrial habitats, and after the 10 years very much could change in these habitats, in contrary to the near natural habitats which should stay similar. So we compared the old research with this new research, and we found that all the main changes were done by people. For example, that the sandpit was reclaimed and now there is no reedbed, or the reedbed was cut somewhere, the hole. But the changes in the communities were not so large. Some new species came, like Heriodes rubicola. This species is spreading from the south of Europe, and now it is starting to be commoner and commoner here. Something changed with Helios pectoralis, which was similarly numerous in near natural and anthropogenic habitats only in our first study. Maybe it was based on the methodology, but in all other studies it is much more numerous in near natural habitats, and if it occurs in post-industrial habitats, they are not polluted. And because we were extracting many nests from gulls, and when we focused on some rare species, we had to cut maybe 500 or 1,000 gulls before we found the first nest of the rare species which we needed to study. But before it, we had thousands of larvae of Pempheron fabrici, which was everywhere in the gulls. And Petr Henneberg, my colleague, had an idea what to do with them. We used Pempheron fabrici as a model species, and Petr tested some very important and very frequently used pesticides on larvae of Pempheron fabrici. There are 3 studies on this topic. This one is another study where Pempheron was the model. It was about the toxicity of the post-industrial habitats. I talked about this study before. And the results of these 3 studies were very similar. That the larvae didn't usually react very much on one substance, but when this was a mixture of substances, mixture of, for example, 3 or 4 pesticides, then it was very harmful for the larvae, and maybe 80 or 90% of them died. And last year, our colleagues from Mendels University in Brno published a study about the toxic elements from agriculture in soil in our country, that they are everywhere, not only in the places where the pesticides are used. So this is a really bad thing, and in the research on pollinators and insects, I think the pesticides can be one of the most important things which are harmful for them and which are needed to do something with that, but no one knows how to do it. We now work on pollinators of crops, and nobody tells us which substances, in which concentrations, how often do they use for their crops, but we see that every day they are using some of them. Popularization is necessary, so we not only published papers with impact factor, but we published papers in popular journals like in Jiva. The people from Jiva were asking us for the paper about this topic very long time, but we published it after publication of the main papers in journals with impact factor, and then we must prepare a publication about the model species. I also had many talks and posters in conferences, not only here in Zoologické dny or in conference of Czech and Slovak hymenopterists, but in international conferences, like in the conference of the Society of Ecological Restoration, conference about wetlands in Danube Delta in Romania, and some other. And because I think the popularization is very important, depending on my time, I don't have much time, but I'm trying to do my best. I very often do some workshops for people, not only for researchers, scientists, but for groups of volunteers, for students from secondary schools, from universities, about bees, wasps, pollinators, and so on. Concluded, one of my colleagues, when we started with this research on reed gulls, said, "Oh, this is very stupid topic. You will never publish a good paper from this topic." So the number of papers we published is 21 till this time in 12 years. And we found some important conclusions, like that reed gulls are important nesting resorts, hosting many species of invertebrates, and the species are making some interesting guilds in wetlands, which were previously nearly unknown, so it was very good that we studied these guilds. Several species are of high conservation interest because they are highly dependent on well-preserved wetlands and on reed gulls too. And the moving of or eradication of reed must be done differently than it is currently used. Now I am, in last several years, some people started to ask me from regions or protected landscape areas how to do the management in wetland habitats. So I always told them, you cannot cut it the whole, you must cut only a part, and you must leave a part of the margin at least. And anthropogenic habitats can be helpful, but the good management of near natural habitats is the key. And I think the nature conservation in the Czech Republic and in Europe started to understand this in last year. So we are on a good way. We discovered new type of progressive provisioning. Interesting is that there is another species of Pemphirodon nesting in oak galls, and the biology is probably very similar. But we must find a time to study it. And most man-induced landscape changes are totally against bees and wasps. Everyone knows it, but no one does something against it. Only the volunteers or people from some organizations which are very interested in nature conservation do it, but the governments and the people who are responsible for it, they usually don't take care about it. And pesticides represent probably the most important threat for biota, or one of the most important threats for biota. So this is not a good sentence to the end of the lecture. So this is not the end of the lecture, but it will be in 2 minutes. Because we have still some new idea about the research, and currently Heriades rubicola is spreading, Solidago canadensis is spreading. It is an invasive plant, very much invasive, and probably this tiny bee highly prefers Solidago as a source of pollen. So now we have prepared the design for the research if the expansion of Heriades rubicola is connected with the spreading of invasive Solidago canadensis in reed beds. Thank you for attention.
So, thank you very much, Peter, for a very nice talk. And now we have time to open the discussion. So, ask for a question. Yes, please.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
You were talking about mowing the reed beds. Did you consider grazing as the management type?
Could you repeat the question so that the other guys hear?
There was a question about the grazing of reed beds. Yes, it is starting to be popular in last several years. In the time when we most intensively studied the inhabitants of reed gulls, it was nearly nowhere done. And currently buffaloes and horses are used. So yes, it can be good, but there is one reservation near to Hradec Králové. It is called Baroch, and it is a mixture of small water pools with wetland vegetation around, and the buffaloes are very destructive. They really very much change the habitat, so I don't know if it is good to put buffaloes on a very large area of wetland. Maybe it is good to have them in a small part of the reservation and then to move them, than to have them in the whole reservation. But I think it is on the start point. But there are still not many localities. In Hungary it is common for many years. I think 20 years ago I saw buffaloes in reed beds in Hungary. But maybe it can be a good point for future studies. Not only for our group, because we are still the only one group in the world who works with reed gulls and their inhabitants. So we really appreciate another group emerging somewhere.
Okay. Let me ask the people connected online, the committee members. Do you have any question?
Sure, I can start.
Yes, please, guys.
So I just wondered how you define and determine an umbrella species.
Yeah. For me, umbrella species is a species which can be used in nature conservation because people can recognize it very well, and we know much about its ecology, and the preservation or conservation of the species can help also to many other species which occur in the same community with this species. I don't know if it is good or bad definition, but I usually understood it this way.
Okay, so are the criteria more based on public perception, like with, let's say, panda bears as a sort of conservation icon, or actually based on empirical ecological data?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think I am a researcher, so for me the ecological data are more important. But for not researchers, for no specialists, maybe the second criterion is more important. But for me it should be a combination of both, because For example, Pseudoanthidum tenellum cannot be, in my opinion, umbrella species because it is very rare, and you are very lucky if you find a nest of this species. Helios pectoralis, when you find a good, beautiful wetland with wet meadow and all the conditions, it is there and it is well detectable.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I have lots of questions. I can go on, but I'll let the people managing the event decide who goes next.
Yeah, so I will ask now the audience here. Another question? Yes, please.
So I think I have two questions, but first of all, for the gulls, the nests are not closed. They are like open for the...
They are closed, but it depends. I go here. The nests are closed, but it depends if the nest comprises the whole inner content of the gull or not. We have sometimes recorded, and it is not very rare, that, for example, one species did two brood cells in the gull, and then another species came and made its nest in the rest of the gull. And we found three different species nesting in the gull behind each other.
They can coexist like that.
Yeah.
You don't mind,
Yeah, they can, or they could nest there in different times. So, because some of the species have only one generation every year, but Pemphirodon fabrici has two generations. So, if there is a nest of another species at the bottom, and it emerges next spring or summer, then Pemphirodon can make two generations in the same gull above the nest. It is possible.
Okay. You have another question or not? You have?
Well, I will ask. At the start, you said that you want to push wasps more into projects. And is it because they have a bad reputation, or because no one is studying them? You just don't have the specialists.
It is because they don't collect pollen. And bees collect pollen. So they are very important and good pollinators, but I think the wasps are the similar, and hoverflies and butterflies, they also don't collect pollen, but they are supposed to be very important pollinators. But nearly everyone knows butterflies, and quite many people study them. With the hoverflies, it is much worse because there are not many specialists, and it is quite a difficult group for identification. But I think the wasps are the same, but among the specialists, I think they still don't consider the wasps to be a group which is possible to work with. But the same situation was with the bees. Many years ago, everyone did the nature conservation in Europe about birds, amphibians, butterflies, and plants maybe. And bees, there are so many, and nobody knows them, and we don't care about them. And then it changed, so I hope if I will talk about it all the time to all the people, the main applicants of the projects, they maybe sometimes say, okay, it is a good idea, let's work with the wasps too.
Okay, another question?
I sadly had a really similar question to the person before me. I was really curious about conservation of wasps, and if there are like challenges specifically because of what people think about them. I have come across a lot of people that are not within the biological field who really, really, really hate wasps. To a point of talking about them as if they carry diseases and things like that.
Yeah, this is the main problem because everyone knows the social wasps. And now we have invasive species, Vespa velutina. So it is still making this group more and more unpopular for people. But there are so many species which are very interesting, very useful for people because they are collecting the pests in orchards, in gardens, but the people don't know it. So the popularization is necessary, as I said before, and it is necessary. I tried it. Maybe someone of you watched me in TV in summer. There was an interview for Prima, CNN Prima News, about the wasps, and they came in the middle of the holidays. It was around the 20th of July, and they asked me, okay, can you tell us something about why this year there are not so many wasps and they are not disturbing people? And I said, yeah, because it is too early. The time of them will be in end of August or in September. Okay, okay, we will do a conversation. So I tried to talk about solitary wasps, something there too. The conversation was good, but these parts were not in the TV. Only about the social wasps.
Okay, I have a question myself. You did several studies on the toxinology or toxicology. That means you expose the bees to pesticides. But actually, I wonder, because you expose the larvae, so in nature, do the larvae came into contact, in the direct contact with the pesticides? Because they are hidden in the galls.
They can, because the pesticides are in the plants, they are in the pollen, they are in the prey, so they are in everything which can get to the larvae. Or in the ground, if the nest is in the ground.
I see. But I think this would be like a secondary contact with the pesticide. I mean, the question is whether the active ingredient is still active, because they normally degrade with time and with exposure to sun, for example. So I think the effect would not be so strong as in these laboratory experiments.
Yeah, you are right, probably. But yeah, it was a kind of testing on the larvae. We cannot say that larva, for example, of the honeybee will react on the pesticide similarly. It can be very different.
Yes.
Okay. But it was something like first experiment on this topic we did.
Yes. So now I ask the committee members, do you have any question? It's your time? Yes? Turn your microphone on, please.
I don't hear you.
We can't hear you. No, we still can't hear you.
You are still muted. Your microphone is still crossed out.
Now,
that looks
it
good.
is good. Hopefully.
Well?
Yeah.
Yes, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Well, actually, I will focus back to the specialization, ecological specialization of the species. I was very interested. For me, was the cross experiment with the reed rests offered to the steppe bees, and I'm wondering why they are not using such an offer. Because my opinion was that these bees are choosing the nest sites according, for example, diameter of the holes or something like that. But apparently they are able to recognize the type of the plant. And Peter, is there any research dealing with how they do that, how they analyze the cues, or how they choose the preferred plants for the nesting?
Milan, thank you for the question. I was expecting it, so I am prepared on this question.
But we didn't talk to each other before, so it's really...
Yeah, the problem with the gull is that I should bring a gull here to send it to you. The opening of the gull is very small and it is usually hidden. So this is the reason why the species which are nesting in the galls, they usually hunt for a very small prey. There are bees which collect pollen, or wasps which are collecting, for example, aphids or some very small diptera. And there is no species of spider wasp which was recorded nesting in reed gall, because probably when they are hunting for quite big spiders, they cannot find a way how to put the spider into the gall. So this is the main reason. And the cavity is very different from a cut reed stalk. So probably the generalists which can settle any cavity are also unable to use these reed galls. And when we study the community, the guild of bees and wasps which nest inside reed galls, they are still the same species. And sometimes accidentally some very common generalist puts the nest there. But these are exceptions. Sometimes the species are trying it, but they are not successful. And sometimes once of 100 attempts, it is successful, the female, but the offspring probably isn't successful then. So it is quite difficult to find a way how to get into the gall.
Thank you.
Okay. Another question from the audience? Oh yes, yes, please, Jakub. Yes.
Yes, Peter, impressive talk. I just like to ask about the gall-inducing flies. What is now about their evolution? Because as far as I know, there are more genera specialized on the Poaceae. What is the knowledge about their evolution?
I don't know if I tell you much because it is a little beside our main topic of research. But there are more genera which can make galls on Phragmites. Not only Lipara, but some other. And the other genera usually don't create galls with cavities. So these galls are useless for the nesting species. And other genera, some are generalist. I cannot remember the names, but there are not many genera who do these galls on Poaceae. But they usually use some small species of Poaceae like Poa or these, and the cavities are very small, just in the stalk, and the galls are also without the cavity. It is interesting that they are from the family Cecidomyidae. There are several species which are highly associated with these Lipara species, and we have still unpublished a description from Marcela Skuhrava of a new species, a specialist of inquiline in galls of Lipara, Lasioptera liparae. But Marcela prepared the description like in an old style, and the reviewers were against it, and they needed some molecular studies. And when we wanted to find new material, they did changes in permissions in national parks in Hungary, so we don't have possibility to work there. And the two localities from which we had this species in the Czech Republic, they were destroyed, they were reclaimed because they were post-industrial sites. One is in České Budějovice, there is new highway, so it goes through the former locality Srubec. So I think that's all I know about it. There is certainly quite a good information about this topic in the studies of Narcug, because she works with Lipara and with other Chloropidae, gall creating Chloropidae very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, another question from the audience?
There is one very beautiful, colorful bird species, Merops volhapestra, bee eater, which is spreading over Czech Republic, many new nest colonies. So do these really feed on solitary bees in such an extent that they can depress populations of them?
Yeah. The population dynamics of the species, it is very difficult to study. But I have a colleague in Slovakia, in Bratislava, who works on the diet of merops. and I am helping her with the identification of the remnants of bees and wasps. And most of the remnants are of quite common species like Polystes and Apis mellifera. It is good that they eat Apis mellifera and some other species which are very numerous in the landscape. But sometimes you find there rare species, but maybe it shows the structure of the abundances of the species in the locality. I think this can be the answer.
Okay, yes, please, Lars, if you have another question.
Sure, many, very interesting stuff. I wasn't sure I understood what you found with, or didn't find with the galls and their survival, or the survival of the bees and galls underwater. You said you tried it but found nothing. What does that mean? They all drowned, or they didn't drown? Or what happened?
No. This was the experiment with the salinity. We collected the gulls which were in saline habitats, and we measured the salinity of the water and some other parameters of the water from which the Phragmites was growing. But we were searching for some influence. If there is higher salinity, then the bees will not nest in the galls and so on. And no influence was confirmed. Nothing like this was recorded. So the main result, except of a long time of driving and extracting galls, was that we found the inner contents of the nests, and this was the only thing we published from this research. We usually, when we did some experiment, we usually got some interesting results, but in this research, nothing. However.
Okay. So I wondered if you could highlight from your work what you think is the most interesting or surprising finding. What are you most proud of?
For me, the most surprising finding is probably the progressive provisioning of Pemphrerone fabrici. Even that something like this probably exists in another species, which is still under our studies. And the second, or it is the first place, can be the importance of field wetlands, which can probably show us very well how the current landscape, which is created only for the people and not for the animals, plants, insects, for the biota, is useless for the insects. That everything in the landscape, or most of the landscape, 99% of the landscape, is useless for insects. And they are searching for some small patches of nature. And it is very hard to find something like this. So these are, for me, in my opinion, maybe the best results, or most interesting results from this field of study.
Okay. May I ask another one in a sort of same general direction?
Yes, please go on.
Yeah, so what do you think is a kind of overarching theme in your research that makes you unique? If you were to, let's say, write the opening statement of a Wikipedia page about yourself, what do you want to be known for as opposed to other people in the field? What makes your work special?
I think I have no page on Wikipedia, but I don't know. I don't like talking about myself, but I think I heard from several people that I am very interested in all byproducts of the research. That we do some research on some topic and we find accidentally something very interesting which is only marginal. But when we focus on this finding, we can then find something very good. I don't know how to explain it well, maybe I didn't explain it very well, that we, for example, studied the salinity, but we focused on the structure of nests, which was something like a byproduct of the study when we were cutting the nests. And then we found interesting host associations. We found Gasteruption. We found that Gasteruption are affecting bees nesting in galls. We found that these Gasteruption are very rare, that they are specialized on very rare bees of important for conservation measures. And if we didn't focus on this and we were only focused on the salinity, we didn't get these results. So this is maybe one thing in which I am good.
So is this what you would write on the first page of the Wikipedia under your name?
Definitely.
Lars, do you have another question?
Sure. I wondered, you briefly mentioned color traps. I mean, given what we know about the fact that many species of bees are actually quite smart in learning flower features, it's perhaps unsurprising that often, even if you put traps out for extended periods, you find absolutely no bees in them. And so could you comment on that a bit? Because you might to some extent, misrepresent bee populations if you only go by whatever species are stupid enough to get themselves trapped, if you know what I mean. Slightly flippantly formulated.
I understand. Yes, this is very difficult. If you want to sample the highest proportion of species in the community at some habitat and do it quite quickly, because you don't have time, you have projects and you must have results in 3 years from the project. You must use some methodology. Now, the methodology which is used in these years, it is a little bit different from that which was used, for example, 10 years ago, because that time pen traps were supposed to be the best methodology how to study bees and wasps in different types of habitats. And there were some teams, even we have also one paper about this topic, that we tested some colors and some proportions of the traps, and we found that blue or turquoise blue, white and yellow, but some not lemon yellow, but something like yellow orange are the best colors of the traps which should be combined. There are many studies on this topic. I had now a student, she finished her thesis this year, and she did a review about all the papers about trapping. And it is very complicated because each study has a little bit different results. So there are different results even in the regions. For example, in North and Central America, most bee species are collected in blue traps. Here in Europe, yellow trap, the highest diversity, white trap, the highest abundance, and blue trap, much lower number of species and specimens, but different species than those which are in yellow and white traps. We used this methodology, and we didn't use only the yellow traps like it was very often used in other studies, but we used this combination of white, yellow and blue. But certainly there are species which are not inside the traps, so if we used, for example, combination of carpen traps, Malaise traps, ground traps, which are also very interesting and important for collecting bees and wasps. Also, they are mainly used for beetles or spiders, and some maybe sweeping transects. It could be good. But even, I'm sorry that I'm answering so long, but I remember, for example, when I was traveling with my colleagues to study bees in field to different regions of South Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, there were 4 people collecting bees at the same place, and everyone found different species. Because even the 4 people had so different methodology. One was sweeping, second one was observing and catching the bees on flowers, the third one was catching the bees mainly on nesting sites, and the last one was maybe walking very much and catching what we saw. So it is very difficult, and I think 100 of methods at the same locality couldn't cover the diversity there. So 1 or 2 methods should be chosen, and then it is good that the same methodology must be done for all the localities and then compared.
So let me ask the audience, is there any question? Yes, please.
Very quick question. Could you please tell me the name of the fly on the last slide?
The last slide.
Okay, this is not a fly, but this is a bee, and surprisingly, it is a cuckoo bee. It is a parasitic bee, and the species is called Coelioxys ruficauda. I can write it if I have. I don't have a pen. Coelioxys ruficauda. And this one is very interesting because it is one of a few species of bees which occur in saline habitats. And we have one locality where I repeatedly collect it in the Czech Republic, and it is Slanisko unesitu. You can find it there in August. And it is a cuckoo bee of Megachile, of the bee which is collecting pollen on the bottom of the metasoma.
Another question?
At the very end of your talk, you showed us your new project, one of those, or one of many, about the species which is now becoming frequent on Solidago canadensis.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered, so is this definitely a native species, or maybe one which has been introduced already some time ago and we are not even aware of it?
No. It is a native species, but it is native in south of Europe. And in last 20 years, it started to spread towards the north. And it is a specialist, like all species of Heriades are specialists on Asteraceae, are oligolectic on Asteraceae. And I know even this species and the other 2 species occurring in our country, that they can collect pollen from many Asteraceae species. But probably when you are a bee which prefers nesting in reed galls, you are small, you occur in the wetland, the nearest source of pollen is Solidago, because Solidago is there, but this is one of the reasons I would like to study it, because the species can collect pollen, for example, from Centaurea, Cirsium, other plants. And in this project, the pollen diet of the species, or the pollen collected by females and the pollen provisioned in the nest, is the main part of the research.
Okay. I have another question. You made one study where you compared the community of bees and wasps like long time ago and then again, right? It was a 10 years difference, something like that. Yeah. And you point out that there were 2 species which were not present in the past and occur now. But what I notice is the different number of, or the different abundances. I mean, like recently there were like 10 times more bees and wasps than before, so why is the difference?
Yeah, I also expected this question. The answer is that we definitely have better methodology. Or the methodology
so more intensive sampling?
No, the methodology is the same. But I think after the long-term experience of studies in wetlands, we better find the places which are full of galls. We better find the places where the galls are full of nesting insects and so on. So this is the main reason, in my opinion. Yeah, here the methodology, I think, is the main reason. But it is not that we we wanted to change the methodology. We didn't change the methodology, but we have more experience,
Yeah, more
and experienced people are better, have better results.
Okay. Is there another question in the audience? So I want to ask the members connected online, do you have another question?
No, I think I'm fine now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm surprised.
So if there is no other question, both here and in the online connection, so I think we are approaching the end. So I would like to thank Petr again for giving us a nice lecture.